And the tandem begins with the fact that mysteriously the student, together with the teacher, finds himself in the same balcony of the slope hard light and mutters at him. He doesn't believe it in shock at all. In this incident, she tries to get out of the toilet is locked, and she says, "Do not open the door. Build a goat now, then you can open it," but the dude tries to avoid it by hook or by crook, but nothing comes of it. Such still heard some sounds of other students from this toilet and whose accidentally absolutely fell on the chest who wanted to leave, because she had done all her business, but then a student clung to her, who also wanted to urinate hard. That's how they walked along the board together in the trestle bed. But then the following awkward situation occurs. The Chalk was standing on the street with his Karifanov, and while he was at physics, he overheated about it, decided to go to the emergency room. The author of the paragraph is again a teacher. That's what he was lucky, and she's poor, she's also overheated, but he went with Katya to talk. Well, the man began to be blindfolded, because he found only candles of each dash, and then, in the middle of this case, another comes up to the ward and says great, and so says great. Yes, in general, in order, but at this time, the student was hidden in the tender embrace of his teacher, and from such embraces his heat pressed on the teacher. This means that the animal takes out a candle and sticks the disciples with this, and then it rains on. Therefore, the student invited her to shit clothes, and he gave her his t-shirt glasses. But the teacher is very afraid of thunder, so when it struck she pressed into it with her big plot. So I'll also turn off behind the coffin. Light, well, what kind of misfortune? Therefore, she suggested that he pick it up, then the Panadol all smeared and her whole plot fell out. Then she came up with a working plan, like a Swiss watch, to take and understand her man. She realized that some Andre had rested on her neck, this drain of her student, and the next day, what a surprise, he met his teacher again. He was sitting with his sister, and then she came to take care of her. However, to take care of the children, she took it SOSO. And on what to separate the baby. Such a young woman complains, "My mother already tells me I need to find a guy for the winter." Well, to start too, and the student could probably not approach the cinema, but that the teacher replied that she just needed a kind, caring guy who would love children, and lo and behold, the student is like that. But she said that in general, but for a year the Katka is good, it would be necessary to swim his face, and he decided to knock down nails with his head, and a couple fished her. She accidentally pumped. Then the teacher began to pester. The brother of our protagonist says to the bold, "Do you look, son? Then I have a good one in general. Let's go with him, bim bim boom boom." But it seems that he doesn't come to him, and there she was embarrassed with her sister and went out. But the very next day she accidentally ended up in his room to give him the shirt that he gave in the laundry. Well, then the mother of our protagonist hurried up and swelled. The poor guy said the face, "Make it simpler, take a drink." Well, she drank and immediately swelled. Sergei began to remember her good old childhood, how she walked past the bridge and some baby was going to jump off from there. Frog, said Auntie, "You are generally just super." And then I remembered her all my life. Only she did not understand that this was our very protagonist, but his mother burned him literally in a second. He thought that he was a con for wanting to jump off the bridge, and the girl just sat down and hugged him and said, "I love him in general, you're a man, give bim bim bom katsa." And the mother quickly stepped back on this occasion. The teacher began to watch the guides on how hard it was fried, rearranging the wind, while I began to just curl around him with my whole body, and at that moment my sister comes into the room. She also sucks him in. The mother comes to pick up her sister. There is just fierce action. It's getting hotter and hotter in this room, but then this incredibly tough action ended, and when the person saw the teacher at school, he began to talk to her like girls. It happened, but she immediately let him in. They say, "How dare you talk to me like that? An ordinary student." Well, as I seem to be together on the same beach, which looks just like some kind of garbage can. But the teacher needs nothing tough. It burned, that it accidentally paused her boobs, so she decided to jump into the open ocean and almost drowned. A snake right there, and a person needs to spread her legs or suck out all the fluid that is in her body in order to save her. Yes, such scenes can only be shown by one link in the description on mine, albeit in general. The sweetheart absorbed the content from the young one so much that she cut down and started the, as she was already marrying him. But then it turned out that this was her fantasy. She actually swelled hard. Another point came to pick up the sweetie from the bar, so that the tan prevented the second teacher from resting quietly, and she dreams of her training in hard strong pitching, with which RG communicated in the yard. When he overheated, Kosh once and again communicates. And then he remembered that he did not turn off the iron at home and ran, and left the dude alone to eat on. The teacher decided to support him. He said, "Come on, brother, open your mouth, now you will yum roll," and fell by accident. But the dude just is in an erotic pose, so I also gave a t-shirt so that she would not get wet, after which absolutely by chance they also ended up together in the same subway. And then incredible circumstances just happen. The subway starts to go, they pinch her t-shirt and little man simply, and because of the pressure from behind, you have to crush her from behind and press her cockna. But what a pity, when the subway was closed, her t-shirt was torn, and her whole big story fell out right on the window. The dude tried to button up a t-shirt, but he didn't button a t-shirt, but this story. This is the anime. This is what I understand. The plot is sick with a mouthful of mouth so much that the next time the local cop decided to pin on the language that they molested this Lola, he said, yes, she said no, we are dating. But that Chelsea sternly said that he would not tolerate lies and they went home quietly. And the cop disappeared somewhere. And here they are, all these cute little kids who miraculously dropped some kind of small toy. There is still some kind of bus right in her chest and the little man needs to cover madam. She just has a toy in people and an umbrella. Waist-high only interactions, probably, have never been in her life like overlap. It's still wet. On this occasion, she ran away at the speed of light. So, once again in the bar swell the fact that she is a poor lowly woman with her friend, a teacher, she stayed so long that the document, and then the hero just takes her in his arms. Her bra happens to be killed, well, he doesn't know about it. And he rushes as if she were not herself with this plot. The teacher brings everyone to the street with a buzz so great that she was knocked out, and therefore he had to demolish her at night. And the next object of our water. Previously, this is a teacher of a condemned color along with her brother, whom she trolls and strangles constantly, and a person comes to her room. There, the sister had already laid down, but he burned down. But, as always, she meets. I fell right into her arms, into her big story, and remembers how she was his bloodworm all the time as a child, and from there to here she doesn't appreciate a man at all. It up and the plot fell out all over his face. He also accidentally sucked it in. Well, victory, when I woke up, I just said, but everything is fine, but I went straight, but then I realized that it was almost required. My brother needs to be careful and saturate the day. He wanted to buy toys for himself and she said that he was some kind of baby who needed to do adult things and took him to the women's store. But the dude thought it was some kind of Korean and decided to dump that sister. Grabbed him and said, sit patient, choose the best underwear for me. Well, the dude was so embarrassed that he took one underwear with his eyes closed and didn't have time to wait at all. While the sister changed clothes, took and pulled her out of the booth. And yes, everything is almost naked stupidly in some panties. Well, the dude didn't look, didn't do anything. I didn't listen, stupidly ran straight back. And there was a Capet's sister in what the mother gave birth. So he stumbles with the account. She decides to say, he pushes her back, and she presses right against the railing, which spins and gives her a hard prostate massage. And why does she get so high that she goes straight up on them, but also says, brothers, let's be careful, don't fall, don't fly away. The next day, they decided to walk across the field, and the dude, as always, stumbles into a puddle. She tries to save him, and in the end everyone got wet and rain also gave rain. As a result, they stayed in the cave, and the dude with weak immunity immediately began to sneeze rhubarb fart. Well, a friend decided to just undress and warm him with her body. The veil of the forehead was lucky. Apparently, he went to lick everything on her body, but when the dude took a sip of tea and he fell asleep, and the teacher stroked his head, and when he woke up, he remembered the good old days when she took care of him and gave out the base that he loved her. Why did she blush? And the next day, the chocolate teacher decided to check on, so she took and risked her in handcuffs. So she also sent her to the same room with her student so that he could take out the key from above. And he was dumbfounded and heard that she was interested in him as a man. Here he sang, of course, but the man climbed for the key, but only it flew out of his hand and accidentally unbuttoned his bra. Madam. Yours fired the whole plot to the weapon, and also shot in his underpants. In short, the dude just had to dive in there to get him and free the cutie. And the next day, the chocolate madam on Halloween was walking with her brother in the forbidden part of the school and accidentally fell there. And when he decided to move away, she grabbed her leg and he also failed. He only wanted to help her get out, saying that he really wanted to go to the toilet. He took out a bucket and helped his girlfriend do her need. Yes, it was sent with a buzz that only tired of Halloween continues. Her duty as a teacher is to entertain children, so she found a bear cub in the costume and frightened everyone. But in the end, the children decided to start scaring the bear itself, but she hid in the teacher's room, where her brother went, and she said, did you fool me? Cardboard walks into another room, and he accidentally fell under her suit. This is tough to see that there is no resettlement, because she described them last time, and he, when he chose for himself, again dumped out her whole plot. I wrapped my legs around her stiffly, because he loves her. Well, she said that she also loves her brother, and then the storyline began, another brow. While Petro was working with the Dacha peasants, while he was working with the Dacha peasants as a cook, he decided to go out on business and came across a doctor who accidentally poured oil on mine. School doctors are their own with what she loves, and the scumbag ignores everyone and does not show his attention to anyone. What does he say? Let you change my shirt, since I wet you. Well, Allah began to change clothes in front of him, who generally went down and accidentally fell right on a big piece of the plot. I generally forgot that I wanted to cure my leg and left it, but while she was talking with a chocolate bar, she thought about how she could be more fun and more positive with the students. Chocolate advises her to at least smile, but she decided to smile a little like a visit to herself so that they would look at the new year. She chopped her good old videos, how she plays with a teddy bear, how she sits on New Year's Eve alone in splendid solitude. Having visited this without negativity, and then I will send her home 18 plus rollers, from which the bottle of wine that I gave her right on the ass, she had to change into his pants, and when they exchanged a gift, it turned out that she accidentally gave him her panties. The next day they decided to take a tough walk on the body, where she bought some weirdo, and then they went to the sea. But she did not take out the consequences and accidentally fell into the sea. So also the panties flew off with them. I immediately dived to help her and get her out of there and saw the full depth of her plot. But this can only be shown on the bust, after which their journey continued. The rain began to pour, and she leaned against it, and they accidentally fell into some kind of hole. The guys carefully got out of there and she said that she loved him under the starry sky of the cave. After that Che wanted to go home, but not in Japan. Fierce snow began abruptly and unexpectedly, during which he was generally on the show lying dying. But they returned back to the school, he turned on the heating and they both burned hard each other. In general, this is incredibly coriander, and Germans, most of which cannot be shown, but full.